All right, you guys, welcome back to our weekly live feed. Before we get into tonight's topic, which is the Bikini Olympia preview, if you'd like to come work with me, Sean Control Cuties is where you got to go. We also have our cutie boutique up here in the corner on our QR code. If you can't see the QR code, that is because you are on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, head on over to either YouTube or Facebook. We are live on YouTube and Facebook as well. It's a better experience there. You're going to see screen shares, you're going to see pictures, you're going to see all the comments, that kind of thing. When you're on Instagram, you don't see any of that. So I'd still put the Instagram up because some people log on through Instagram and find out that we're live through Instagram, but the experience is much, much better when you're over on Facebook or YouTube. So welcome, what's up? And we always keep it rolling for a couple of minutes prior to getting into our topic. Tonight's a big one. Tonight is the Bikini Olympia preview. We're going to go through who I have picked out for placements, not just top 5, not just top 10, but actual placements at the Olympia, because it is a interesting lineup this year. There's a lot of caveats going into this year. We'll get into that in just a couple of minutes. I don't want to talk too much about it yet because I want to wait for people to get logged on. Like I said, we always wait about 3 minutes or so. This will be our last live feed for this week. Next week, we will do a live on Tuesday. Yes, on Tuesday night. And then we are off to the races. I head out to Olympia on Thursday. So Wednesday will be my day to get kind of packed up and ready to go. So we will have Behind Bikini next week. We will be shooting that next week on Monday. So that'll come out for you guys. And then we will have a live in-person Behind the Bikini podcast at the Olympia on Sunday. So what's up? What's up? Welcome. Yes, if you are logging on Instagram, you can watch on Instagram, but it's only going to be me. You're just going to see my face and my voice. But if you go over to YouTube or Facebook, you'll see all the screen sharing, photos, things like that over on YouTube and Facebook. If you don't know how to get to that, then if you're on Instagram, go to my link tree. Our YouTube channel is right there. Click on that. Head on over to YouTube. Subscribe and turn on notifications so that way you know when we go live and when we release videos. Typically, what we've been doing is we've been doing pre-recorded videos twice a week and one live each week. But because it is Olympia, because it's Olympia prep time, hype time, we are doing 2 lives, three lives this week, actually. This is our 3rd live this week. So we're going to go through the Bikini Olympia predictions. All right. We ready to go? Ready to do this? All right. So this year's Bikini Olympia is going to be very interesting. It is really difficult for me to choose people this year because for a few different reasons. Our top 5, top 6, top 8 girls are all very, very good, and they've all won titles in their own right. So this is our list right here. So for Bikini Olympia 2023, this is our full list right here. Quite a few competitors, almost just as many as last year, even though they eliminated the points, all that kind of stuff. So this did not make a difference when it came to the amount of competitors. So this is a very difficult decision. So what I did going into this is I went based upon kind of momentum on some people, like multiple wins, that kind of thing. I went based on how their year has gone, went based on who they've beaten this year. But even the major titles, like, Maureen won the Olympia this past year, but then she lost the Arnold to Laura Lee. So, and Jennifer Dory was 2nd at the Olympia, but then she ended up 3rd at the Arnold. So, our top 3, 4, 5, 6 girls are all kind of interchangeable right now. And it's really going to be a matter of who shows up best that day. So if you take a look at my spreadsheet here, it's not really a spreadsheet, but if you look at my tabs, the tabs that I have on the left of this Bikini Olympia list are my top 5, and they could literally go in any order. Okay, they could literally go in any order, but I'm going to show you how I think it will play out. If everybody's at their best, this is how I think it's going to play out for the top 5. And then everybody that's on the right side of that, those tabs, I have some girls that I think are going to make the top 10. I have some girls that I think could be potentially in the top 10. And then the rest of them are all people I think that are going to place. And if I think they're going to place, then they very well could be in that top 10 range as well, right? Essentially, how I determined who was going to be 6th place through 10th place here is based upon the number of wins that they've had throughout this year, okay? So I tried to keep it as logical as possible because there's nobody that really came out and had a very dominating performance this year other than a couple of people. There were a couple of people that had a pretty dominating performance throughout the year, did multiple shows, had multiple wins, and that is playing into my predictions here for people and where they're going to land. So other than those couple of people, it's really wide open for this particular division, okay? So anybody that I've got on this list could be as high as 1st and as low as 16, right? You know what I mean? So it could go any which way, and it's going to be a matter of who comes in best that day. We'll use, examples from previous years and things like that too. So as I get into this, guys, do you want me to talk about the top 5 first, or do you want me to talk about who I think is going to be like your 6th through like 16th? Go ahead and type into the comments. Tell me which direction you want me to go. Do you want me to talk about the top 5 first? Or do you want me to talk about 6 through 16? Those that I think are going to be in the placement zone. Go ahead and tell me. Go ahead and tell me. I'll give it a minute. Give it a minute. I know, like I said, the comments are always a little bit behind. So top 5 first. Everybody's saying top 5 first. And again, for those of you that are joining us on Instagram, you're just going to see my face. But if you go over to YouTube and to Facebook, then you'll see the actual pictures and the screen share and all that kind of stuff too. Looks like everybody wants to see the top 5 first. Okay. All right. So we'll do that first. We'll do my top 5 first. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Sorry. Drum roll, please. Okay. So again, the top 5 that I have here could go in any particular direction, and it's going to be based on how they come in that day. But this is how I have it playing out. And the reason I have it playing out this way is based upon a couple of things. A, either how they perform throughout the year, or B, through updates we've seen on Instagram, because some of these girls have not competed all year. So that's all we've got. All we've got are Instagram updates. And as you guys know, Instagram can be very, very wrong. So just because we see some really good photos on Instagram does not mean that's going to translate to stage. But unfortunately, when we're doing these kinds of previews, things like that, that is all we have to go on. So we just kind of have to go with what we've been given, right? So who I have in my 1st place position for this year for the Bikini Olympia is Maureen. I have Maureen repeating, okay? I think it's going to be very, very close. I think it's going to be, again, a matter of if she comes in perfect. If she comes in at her best, I do think she's going to retain the title if she comes in at her best. The main reason for this is I've seen, a few Instagram photos, things like that. And to me, it looks like she's improved a bit. Okay. It looks like she's fixed a few things. Looks like one of the things that people were always commenting on was her rib cage, things like that. From what I've seen, it looks like she's fixed the rib cage. I just think when I look at Maureen, I think she has very attainable physique. She has a look that girls can look at and say, I can be Maureen, right? And that is always something that we have to think about when we're talking about Bikini, right? And yes, you're right. This will be the first repeat since Angelica. That's right, Kelby, if she does repeat. Here's the thing, you guys. Bikini Olympia, it's so fickle because it's a matter of who comes in best that day. So we have not had a repeat champion for a very long time, okay? If this does happen, she will be the first for a while. Now, she did lose the title of the Arnold title to Laura Lee. So it's very possible that she does not retain this Olympia title. But Again, if she's fixed some of her errors, I think when she came into the Arnold, I think she was a little bit too soft, and I think that's what hurt her more than anything else there. I think Laura Lee was 100% on, and I think Maureen was a little bit off. So if Maureen comes in on, I do think she's going to keep the title. I do think she's going to retain this title. We'll see. We'll see if that happens or if it doesn't. If it doesn't, and somebody else comes in and takes it from her, who I think will be in the second place position or who may actually take this from Maureen, would be Laura Lee. Laura Lee has been in this second place position so many times. The Olympia was not her best showing this past year, right? She ended up 5th, which was actually one of her worst placings that she's had. But that's also because she came in really, really thin and depleted looking in comparison to what she typically does. She fixed that. I think she said she came in like 7 pounds heavier or something like that. Well, internal server error. Awesome. So let's see if there's an issue with NPC News Online right now. Good thing I have everybody's pictures up. So if I can't pull their individual pictures up, at least we know that. Oh, this one opened. Okay, cool. But anyway, so, when she came into the Arnold, she was, I think, 7 pounds heavier at the Arnold. And that really played really well for her frame. Now, remember, she's a tall girl. So 7 pounds is a lot, but on her frame, it's not. You know what I mean? Same thing with me. I get it. You can put on 7 pounds in a day just by filling out. So when she came into the Arnold, she was full and tight in all the right spots, right? So she actually won the title there. And we have not seen her on stage since. One of the things with Laura Lee is that she can be a little bit inconsistent. Like you said, she can go up 7 pounds or down 7 pounds, right? So, she just is not the most consistent look on stage, which is why I have her in second. Because if we knew we were going to see the Arnold version of Laura Lee, then I would say, okay, she may actually take this title, but we just don't know. She's kind of inconsistent on her looks. Sometimes she's too muscular, sometimes she's too skinny, those kinds of things. If Laura Lee comes in at her 100% best, she very well could take this title. She absolutely could. So we'll see. Does she bring in 100%? If she does bring in 100%, she's gonna be tough to beat. She's gonna be tough to beat. At some point, she's got to get this title, right? She's been second place how many times, right? So it's got to happen at some point. And if she comes in at 100%, this could be her year. Currently, I have her in the second place position. Now, that means we're up to third place. And for third, I have Jennifer Dory. I kind of feel like this is going to be a repeat of the Arnold a little bit. If the biggest thing with Jennifer is she doesn't do the best her first show out of the year, right? I kind of wish she'd come out and done a warm-up. I get why she didn't. I understand why she didn't. But she tends to do better like her second or third show of the year. So it gives me a little bit of pause that her last 2 shows that she's been out on stage, she has not won them. She came in third at the Arnold. She came in second at the Olympia. I just feel like she needs to do a warm-up show so she can work on any kind of tweaks and things like that. She has a tendency to come in a little bit too full, a little bit under-conditioned, but at the Olympia, she was over-conditioned. So again, what we're talking about here, same thing we just talked about with Laura Lee, is a little bit of inconsistency. She doesn't always bring the same physique. So if she doesn't bring the same physique, we don't know which version of Jennifer is going to show up. Jennifer at 100% could absolutely win this title back if she is at 100%. If she's at 100%, she could win this title back. She absolutely could. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't know, because again, she's not the most consistent physique on stage. So currently I have her in third, but like I was saying at the beginning of this, any one of these girls that I've put into this top 5, I think could potentially be the winner of this show. We've seen it in years past where, girls just kind of come out of nowhere. Maureen was one that just kind of came out of nowhere at one point. I mentioned her first year in the Olympia. I said, we got to watch out for this girl. She's dangerous. And she went from top 10 to top 4 or top 3 or whatever it was up to winning it. So, all these girls here in this top 5 that I have picked out for the top 5 are potential winners at the end of the day. Will they? Only time will tell. Only time will tell. So let's see if Jennifer can come in. If Jennifer can come in at 100%, she's going to be very, very hard to beat, just like we said with Laura Lee. But she's a little inconsistent. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Next one that I have in fourth place. So this one's probably going to be a little bit of a shocker to you guys in fourth. But I have Amy in fourth. So Amy was sixth this past year. And actually, I misspoke on our wrap-up of Hurricane. I said that Phoebe was sixth. She wasn't. Phoebe was seventh. Amy was sixth. The reason why I have Amy in fourth is because she has been very consistent all year long. She has won every show that she has done this year. Her look has been, like I said, very consistent. They obviously like her. She was already sixth. I think she's going to move up, and I think she's going to be in the fourth place position. I think she's going to compare very well to your Laura Lees and to your Maureen's and things like that. A little bit fuller, a little bit rounder. That's where I think she's sitting. So I do think she's going to end up in that top 5, and I do think she's going to end up in fourth place. Okay. This year, I don't think is her year to win this title. She could be a winner in 2 to 3 years. She could be a winner in 2 to 3 years, right? But again, she's been very, very consistent all year long. She's won every major title. She won New York. She won Pittsburgh. You know, she won Tampa the year before. So she's won every single major title that you could win in this particular division, except for an Olympia or an Arnold. So now she's going to start moving her way up in this rank. So I do have her in fourth place here. Where I think she could get into a little bit of trouble is she may be a little bit too muscular. But again, going back to, if Laura Lee comes in at 100%, Laura Lee is more muscular. So I think that Amy will compare very well with Laura Lee. So it's all going to be a matter of how they actually come in on show day. So I personally have Amy in fourth place. So that's my fourth place pick. That's probably the one that a lot of you guys didn't think was going to happen, but so be it. I have her in fourth. In fifth place, I have Ashley. I do have her still in the top 5. I do think that she'll be in fifth. She's on the smaller side when it comes to these girls as far as her muscularity is concerned and things like that. The reason why I have her in fifth versus having an Amy in fifth is because she competed twice against Amy this year, and Amy beat her both times. So to me, that tells me they like Amy's physique just a little bit more. They like a little bit more muscle. They like a little bit rounder, all of those kinds of things. So Ashley's still always a force to be reckoned with whenever she gets on stage. But when we get into these bigger shows, this is where she gets tested. And again, we're talking about these fuller, more muscular physiques. A lot of these girls are coming in with more muscle. They're coming in rounder, and they're getting rewarded for it. So because of that, I believe that Ashley is going to be in the fifth place position. Now, if Ashley's not at 100%, she could actually maybe slip out of the top 5, but I don't think so. I think she's still going to be in your top 5. I still think she's going to be in your top 5. I think at the lowest, I think Ashley could potentially be in 6th. I still think she's going to medal. But I don't see that. I see her in 5th. They like her physique. They reward her. And I think that's where she's going to end up landing. So we'll see. She's been off stage for a little bit. So hopefully when she comes back, she'll be rested. She'll be round. She'll be full. She'll be able to stand up next to these more muscular girls and compare well. Time will tell. I have her in 5th. Okay. So that's your top 5. Okay. So let's get into who I think could be potentially in the, 6th through 10th range. And then we'll go from like our 10th to 16th range. Okay. I chose these girls again based upon their record this year, based upon who they actually beat this year, things like that. So these girls can go in any sort of direction or order. I don't have them specifically in a placing for the top 10. But I think these girls could be your potential top 10 finalists. And remember, if you're in the top 10, then you go to finals. If you are outside the top 10, you don't. Okay. All right. First one that I have is Romina. Now, do I see her in 6th? Probably not. She could be as high as 6th. Probably more 7th, 8th range. The reason why it's not that she has this like super impressive record or anything of wins or anything like that, but she has been in the top 10 and the top 5 at the Olympia before. She's been in this position before. She's been up here. Last year, she was in the top 10, right? So I think she's still going to stay there. I still think she's going to be in the top 10. I'm guessing somewhere between 7 to 9. I think that's where she's going to land. As high as 6th. As high as 6th. I think probably 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. She has an incredible back shot. It's very, very hard to beat her from the back. So I do think that she could be a potential, I think she's going to be a top 10er. I don't think she's going to work her way into the top 5. I don't think she'll be up in the top 5, but I do think she could be, anywhere from 6 to 10 for me. So that's Romina. People forget about her, but she's been a top 5er before. So don't forget about Romina. The next one that I have here is Ashlyn. Ashlyn has 2 really impressive wins under her belt this year, being Texas and Tampa. She also beat Issa, which is a big deal. And I think that she's just getting better and better. So I could see Ashlyn as high as 6th. If somebody from that top 5 comes in off, maybe she could bump one of them out. But I do think she's going to be in the top 10. I do think she's definitely going to be in the top 10. I think she's like for sure going to be in the top 10. She's also been there before. She's one of the few girls this year that has multiple wins. And they've been impressive wins. They've been strong wins. They've been big show wins. So I do think she's going to be in the top 10 and likely somewhere in that 6, 7, 8 range. I think she will probably be in first call out. If you're a top 8, you're in first call out. Okay. So if she gets into first call out, she has the ability to work her way up. I think that she will be in that first call out, and she could be potentially as high as 5th, I think. But I'm saying more like 6 through 8, somewhere in there. I think she's gonna be 6 through 8. So that's my 2 cents on Ashlyn. I do think she's gonna be in the top 10. Like I said, probably towards the bottom of the top 10, but I still think she's gonna be in the top 10. She could go as high as 5th. She could go as high as 5th. But that's my next one. Next one I have on the list is Issa. So I don't think that Issa is going to drop out of the top 10 this year. I think she'll still be in the top 10. Obviously she is a previous Miss Bikini Olympia winner, but her physique is just a little unbalanced. The reason why she was as good as she was when she won is because she was able to pose a lot bigger. They called it, the figure light version of Bikini at that time. That posing is not being rewarded anymore. The extreme lat flares, things like that, is not being rewarded anymore. So when it comes down to it, I think that her physique is just a little bit unbalanced. And I think that she has a hard time standing up to these girls from the back. So I still think she's going to be in the top 10, but I think she's going to be towards the bottom of the top 10. I believe she was 8th this past year. She's probably going to be in the same area. I think she's going to be in the same area. So I think she's probably somewhere 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. I think that Ashlyn's going to beat her. So we'll see. Issa at her best, I don't think is going to be in the top 5. Maybe as high as 6th. She might medal. That's as high as I can see her going, though. We'll see. Like I said, time will tell, but we'll see. Next up, I have Eureka. Another one that people forget about. Eureka has multiple show wins under her belt this year, too. She has 2 wins. Yep, she has 2 wins this year. She did place at the Olympia last year, too. People forget. She was in that placing zone. She was not in the top 10, but she did place. Okay, so I think she's going to place. I think she could be as high as 9th or 10th. Okay, I think she could be as high as 9th or 10th. Higher than that, probably not. But like I said, I think she was like 12th or 13th last year. So I think she's going to work her way up, maybe 1 or 2 placings. It'd be cool to see her get into the top 10. I do think that's a potential. Again, I put her in this position here because she has multiple pro wins this year, and not a whole lot of people do. She's got 2 wins. But she's not a super dominating competitor, but she has a great look on stage, and they really like her. She's really well balanced. If she comes in at her best, I do think she's going to break through and be potentially in that top 10 zone. Again, not very high in the top 10, but potentially in the top 10 zone. I could see her placing somewhere between like 8th down to 12th, like somewhere in there, right? So that's my next one on the list. Next, we have Jordan. So again, another girl here that has multiple show wins. There's not a whole lot of them this year. Jordan has 2 show wins, okay? I think that with the 2 wins that she had, this one here at Hurricane, sorry, trying to find a front pose of her. The one that she had at Hurricane was a very impressive one. She beat 4 other Olympians, right? She beat 4 other Olympians at Hurricane, which was just this past weekend. That gives her a lot of momentum going into the show. So I do think that could push her up. She could be a potential top 10 placement right here. This could be a top 10 placement. I think she's going to place somewhere between probably, like I said, the 8 to 12, 13 zone. Same kind of thing that I said about Eureka, right? So I do think she could be a potential top 10 person. All of this is going to be dependent upon how they come in on show day, right? All of this. All is going to be dependent upon how they come in on show day. I think she's going to place regardless. I think she's going to be in the top 15. And I think she could be potentially as high as 8th. I think she'd be potentially as high as 8th. I'm guessing she's probably going to be somewhere in the 12-ish, 11-ish range. That's where I'm thinking. But again, this is based upon her momentum going into the show and the fact that she just did win this show against 4 other Olympians. That's a big deal going into the Olympia, right? Same thing that happened with Phoebe last year. You know, Phoebe came in, won Battle of Texas right before the Olympia, and that gave her momentum going in. Same scenario here. Okay, so I do think she's going to be somewhere in there. I think she's going to place. She could be in the top 10. Probably, like I said, same kind of thing as Eureka. Probably in the same kind of zone, right? Okay. Next, we have Jessica. People forget about Jessica. Jessica has multiple show wins, you guys. She has 2 show wins this year. She won the Masters Olympia, but she also won the DC Pro-Am. And she's come very, very close to placing top 10 in the past. And that was not even her best look. She placed, I think, 13th 2 years ago. I think she was 13th. It was 13th or 12th, something like that, 2 years ago. So I think she could be a potential top 10 person here. Now, I think it's more likely that she's going to be in the same zone that she was in 2 years ago, probably somewhere between 13 to 15. That's what I'm guessing. 12, 13, 15. But you can't deny the fact that she has 2 pro wins, because a lot of people this year do not have multiple show wins, and she does. She's got 2. Okay. And it's not like winning the Masters Olympia is any kind of slouch or anything like that, because she was up against girls in that particular show that have placed top 5 in the Open. So it's not like it was just handed to her, right? She has beaten some of the girls that are going to be on the stage, for the Olympia. So I think she could be potentially, if she gets into the top 10, she's going to be like 10th. She's going to be at the bottom of the top 10 if she gets into the top 10. But I think it's more like she's probably going to be somewhere in the 12, 13, 14 zone. Same kind of thing as what she was a couple of years ago. Again, can't deny the fact she's got a couple of wins here. All right. Next. I'm watching your comments. I'm just not addressing them yet. Dark horse we have here. We got some dark horses coming in now, is Rihanna. Okay, now Rihanna did just come off of a 2nd place finish in Arizona, but we know she came in a little bit soft, and she's had multiple top 5 finishes at several large shows this year, right? Like New York and things like that. Do I think she's top 10 material this year? If she gets lucky. If she gets lucky, she could be in that top 10. If she gets into the second call out, she could very easily work her way into that top 10, kind of like what happened with Phoebe again last year. I think she's more going to be on the 12 to 15 range. I think she's going to place. She's going to be somewhere in the 12 to 15 range. If she comes in at her best, she could work her way up. She could work her way up into the top 10. So we'll see if that happens. But if I was saying where she's going to place, I would say she's going to place somewhere between 12 to 15. But again, she could work her way up. And if she does, I see her somewhere at the bottom of that top 10 zone, 9, 10, somewhere in there. Okay. But she's definitely one to be paying attention to. We'll see if she comes at 100%. Next one I have on the list is Phoebe. Now, I'm going to be the one to say it. I don't think she's going to make the top 10 this year. I think she could still place. If she brings her conditioning in at 100%, she could work her way up like she did last year. Okay. 2 weeks is enough time to do the conditioning, like I mentioned when we wrapped up Hurricane this year, right? There's just so many girls this year, though, that are so good. I don't see her in the top 10. I still think she's going to get into the second call out. I still think she's going to place probably again somewhere in the 15, 14, 13 range, that kind of area. I think that's going to be her zone. If she pulls out a rabbit out of her hat of these last 2 weeks, then maybe she can work her way back up into the top 10 like she did last year. But I do think she's going to be outside the top 10 this year. I think she's going to be outside the top 10. Hey, like I always tell people, whenever I give them, hard, I guess it's tough love, prove me wrong, right? Prove me wrong. Get in there and prove me wrong. But after coming off of this Hurricane show and placing 6th here, it's hard for me to look at her and say, okay, I think in 2 weeks you could end up being top 10 in the world, right? So there's just too many girls that placed ahead of her that could come out and place ahead of her here at the Olympia too. But stranger things have happened. She could prove me wrong. It's happened before. But I think she's going to be in the second call out. I think she's going to be towards the bottom, and I think she's going to be somewhere in the 13 to 15 range. I think is where she's going to land. There's still a few main names that I haven't said yet. I know. All right, next one up is Ivana. So nobody's talking about Ivana at all, anywhere. But she's had a lot of pro wins. Now this year, she just didn't compete as much as what she normally does. Normally she competes a lot. So we see her face a lot. We're used to seeing her on stage a lot. She just hasn't done that this year. So because of that reason, I think some people have forgotten about her, but she is one of the most consistent pros on stage, period. She's one of the most consistent pros, period. She looks the same every time she gets on stage, and that plays out really well for her. She did well at the Arnold. She won a show this year. I think she placed at the Olympia last year. She wasn't top 10, but I think she placed. And I think she's going to place again this year. I do think her physique is still a little bit too hard, unless she comes in nice and full. If she comes in nice and full, then she could move up, and she could be a potential like knocking on the door of that top 10 if she comes in full. If she doesn't, then I think she's going to end up in the 11, 12, 13 range, somewhere in there, right outside the top 10. That's where I have her sitting right now. But again, we haven't seen her on stage in a while. So if she comes in and she's nice and full and round when she gets on stage, she could be surprising, and she could be as high as maybe even 6th if she comes in full enough. She's got a phenomenal frame, phenomenal look, phenomenal physique. She just needs to come in full. And fix some of the posing things. She always has some little wonky posing things going on. So if she can fix some of these posing things and stuff like that, she could be the shocker that could come in and be like a 6th or 7th place, right? She could be somebody that throws everybody off if she comes in with the right conditioning. So we'll see. If I was betting, I would say she's going to place, but I think she's going to be in that, again, somewhere in the 12 to 15 range, a second call out, that kind of thing. But we'll see. She has potential. She has potential to shock everybody. If we're looking at somebody that could be a potential shocker the whole show, I would say Ivana would be it. Next up, Daraja. Okay, I know y'all are like, why haven't you said Daraja yet? Why haven't you said Daraja yet? Okay, well, because we know she has been very inconsistent this year. Okay, I get it. She came off of 4th place at the Olympia this past year, but we have not seen her nail anything yet this year, right? Her last time that she was on stage, she placed 3rd. So again, going back to the same thing, I got to say the same thing I said about Phoebe. I've got to say the same thing here about Daraja. Now she's had time. Arizona was a few weeks back. You know, she has had time to get her conditioning to come in, but the fact that she hasn't been able to nail her conditioning this year once is concerning, right? And I think she might get exposed. Now, if she nails her conditioning, she could 100% go all the way back up into that top 5, as high as 4th. She could absolutely be there 100%, but that's Daraja at 100%. And we have not seen her at 100% yet this year. So if I'm saying this about Phoebe and I think Phoebe's going to drop, I got to say the same thing about Daraja and I think Daraja's going to drop. So, you know, prove me wrong, girls. Bring your conditioning in at 100%. Give me 100% of your physique. If you do that, you will move up. Currently, I have Daraja 8th through 12th. 8th through 12th, somewhere in that area. She could easily drop out of the top 10 if she's got conditioning like this, okay? If her conditioning comes in, she could move up. But we haven't seen that yet this year, right? We haven't seen her bring it in yet. So pull out that conditioning and prove everybody wrong. Prove me wrong. You know, get back up in that top 4, right? She's capable of doing it. She did it last year. She was 4th last year. But I've got to be consistent. I got to say the same thing about her that I said about Phoebe, right? So we'll see. This is going to be interesting. Again, it all comes down to, are they going to bring 100% on stage? If they bring 100% on stage, any one of these girls could completely blow all of this out of the water, right? Yeah, she's been in prep forever. She sure has. Yep. So I'm wondering if her body's just not responding like it should be. So we'll see. I hate dropping her all the way out of the top 10, but if she doesn't bring the conditioning in, there's too many other girls that are really, really good at this. And it's going to be too much for her. She's not going to be able to handle it, right? She can be outside the top 10 looking in. All right. We're down to the last couple. So one that I think that could be a top 10er is Jordan. Now, she only did the one show this year and she won it. Again, last year she did a bunch of shows. So we had more data on her. She had more momentum going in, all of those kinds of things. There's a few things that she needed to fix from this particular show in order to bring her 100% at the Olympia, but this was enough for her to get a pro win. She was 11th last year. So right outside of that top 10. So she's gunning to get into the top 10 for sure. Is it possible? Absolutely possible. The only reason why I don't have her like right out of the gate in the top 10 is because we've only seen her once on stage, right? So can she be a top 10 finisher? Absolutely. 100%. 100%. I think that if she comes in at her best, she will land somewhere between the 8 to the 12 zone. I don't see her dropping out of the not placing. I still see her at least in the 15 and above. I think she could be as high as 8th. I think she could be as high as 8th, probably as low as 12th, that kind of thing. But if she comes in even better than she did in San Antonio, then I do think she's going to be moving up. I do think she's going to be moving up in the ranks. We just don't have a lot of data on her this year, so we don't know yet. Can she be top 10? Absolutely, 100%. I talked about the peach suit when we wrapped up this show. I wasn't a fan of the suit. Wasn't a fan of the suit at all. I wasn't a fan of the fit. I wasn't a fan of the color. So hopefully she goes back to her other pink suit. I think it looked better on her. That's one of the things I think that, just little tweaks and stuff like that to make going into the Olympia. So do I think she's gonna be a top 10 person here? If I was betting, I would say she's gonna be somewhere between 8 to 10. That's what I think. I think she's not gonna go any lower than 12. I think she's not gonna go any lower than 12. But if she comes in at her 100%, it's going to be 8 to 10, somewhere in there in the top 10 range. So We got a lot of ifs and buts and all this kind of stuff going on, guys, this year. We just don't have a lot of data on most of these girls. And then the last one that I pulled up is kind of biased. I'm just going to be honest, is Yulia. I mean, I had to bring her in. Obviously I work with her, so I'm going to give her a shout out. I'm just being honest. I'm biased in this particular situation, so it is what it is. But on top of that, she also did beat Brianna. She also did beat Daraja. She won a very competitive show that nobody thought she was going to win, right? So that got her noticed automatically. Her biggest thing is she's just got to stay full. If she can stay full, she's got an incredibly competitive physique, an incredibly competitive look. So she's another one that I feel like if all the things fall in her favor, could potentially move up into that top 10. If I was betting, I would say somewhere biased and not ashamed. No, if I was saying, but for real, I think she could be a dark horse. I think she could be somebody that comes in and shocks. I think that she could be somebody that ends up placing. I think she could be potentially in that bottom half of the top 10. If I had to guess, I would say, again, same thing I said about Jordan. I would say somewhere between 8 to 12, somewhere in that zone. And it's going to be a matter of who comes in looking best that day, right? I think it's going to be somewhere in that zone. And again, she came in second to Jordan. So, if Jordan comes in 8th, then Yulia could come in 9th. You know what I mean? So I could see that happening. I could 100% see that happening. So as you can see here, as we went through all of these girls, that's my last pick. Okay. As I went through all these girls, there's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of buts. There's a lot of reasons why I chose people in these zones, in these areas. And it's all really based upon their body of work this year, which we don't have a lot of data on some of these girls. Like I said, we don't have a lot of girls that did multiple shows, right? We've only got a few girls that did multiple shows this year. So we have to go based on what we know, which isn't a lot. We don't know a lot going to this show, right? She's better posing was, yep. Well, I mean, we know where the credit goes. Thank you. Well, thank you. Appreciate that, Kelby. This is anybody's game this year, you guys. There's not a heavy favorite. Even though I have Maureen winning it, she's not a heavy favorite. She could very easily be overcome by Laura Lee, by Jennifer, by Ashley, by Amy. It's anybody, right? So what do you guys think? Type into the comments. A, give me your top 5. B, is there anybody that I missed that maybe I should have said that I didn't? And C, do you agree or disagree with any of my choices, right? Yeah, I love that there's not an obvious favorite too. I love that there's the opportunity for us to, really kind of see somebody come out and shock everybody. We had a bunch of shocks last year. Daraja was a shock last year. Phoebe was a shock last year. We had a lot of shocks last year. And I'd love to see that kind of thing happen again this year. Amy was kind of a shock. She already won Tampa and stuff, so we kind of saw that. But she, getting up as high as she did in the top 10. So I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting day. It's gonna be an interesting prejudging and finals, right? So tell me, do you agree with me or do you not? Type in those comments, guys. Tell me who you got winning. Tell me who you guys got winning. Tell me who you got in your top 5. Is there anybody that I missed that I should have mentioned that I didn't? There's a few girls on here that I could see that I did not pull them up just because, again, we don't have good body work on them. But there's a bunch of girls on this list that could shock everybody. They shock everybody. So there is no expectation of public appearances. None. 0. Nope. Does not matter. Top 5 in no particular order. Maureen, Jen, Laura Lee, Amy, Ashley. My surprise for top 5 were Jordan and Ashlyn and Issa. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think it's very possible that Ashlyn could work her way up in the top 5. I think Ashlyn could easily be 6th. And depending on how she looks, I think she could be easily top 5. I could think she could work her way up into the top 5. So, well, like I said, I mean, I can see anybody in that top 5, I can see winning the title. You know, the good thing about this is, like we've said, there is no clear favorite here. There is nobody that's coming in that's super dominant. So the judges will judge live that day who is the best that shows up that day, right? So whoever shows up the best is gonna be the winner. That's it. So yeah, this show's it's gonna be a nail biter. I don't think it's gonna be one-handedly by anybody. I think it's gonna be like a point or 2 difference. And I think it's gonna be a point or 2 difference between like all of the top 5, right? I think, and again, here's the thing: if they all come in at their best, man, this is gonna be tough. This is gonna be really, really tough, right? One other thing that I wanted to mention when it comes to the difference between Laura Lee and Maureen is one of the reasons I have Maureen beating Laura Lee, if they're both at 100%, is because I think that Maureen has a more attainable physique than Laura Lee. Laura Lee just has a freaking ridiculous frame and physique that is just genetically superior to everybody. So, you know, it's just hard. It's hard with that because it's just Laura Lee. She's just, it is what it is. And I think that personally, I think that the Bikini Olympia title needs to be somebody attainable. And I think that's why Maureen has an edge sometimes. But I also love Laura Lee's physique. So it's very possible. It's very possible. It's very possible. I figured Julia was asleep. She told me she gets on for like the first 10 to 15 minutes of this thing. That's as far as she can go. So that's okay. Yeah, and I think one thing that could be very shocking is I think that, you know, depending on how they come in, I mean, Amy could be in the fighting spots for the top 2, right? Amy could be fighting for top 2. You know, we haven't seen Amy up against Laura Lee. You know, they didn't compete. Amy didn't compete at the Arnold. So other than, you know, the Olympia last year, and Amy and Laura Lee were like right next to each other in placings. So, I mean, this could be big. This could be a big deal, right? So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And again, I believe it's gonna come down to who comes in looking the best that day. The best that day. Oh, my phone just died. So if you're on Instagram, you just lost it. Hopefully that still saves. I don't know. I should have saved it. I just X'd out of it. My phone just died. Oops. Hopefully we didn't lose the whole live feed on Instagram, but that's okay. I'll just tell everybody to go over and watch it on YouTube. All right, guys. So that's going to do it for our predictions. Hope it was entertaining. Hope that it gave you some things to think about going into next week. I'm curious to see how this is all going to play out. So with that, we'll be back on live again next week on Tuesday. We'll have another Behind the Bikini on probably releasing on Tuesday because we're going to shoot it on Monday. And here we go. Olympia. It's Olympia week. You guys. Officially, as of next week, right now, I will be in Orlando. So it is officially Olympia week. All right. With that, if you want to work with me, as you know, we've got our QR code up in the corner for our Cutie Boutique right there. So we do hair, makeup, suits, and posing, all the fun stuff when it comes to competing. And we'll be back again next week. And then it's Olympia time. All right, you guys, have a great night. And we'll see you back here later.